Well. I did not expect uh I did not expect to see what happened. But before we go to the events of last night's game, let's talk about before that happened. And that was um basically Tomlin announcing that that he's making a change at quarterback and going to Russell Wilson, even though Justin Fields was 4-2. And this broke the world. What was your feeling on him making the quarterback change?
My thing was, well, I'm always very fairly critical of Tomlin. I got to give the guy credit because that takes some balls. I take some balls to do it. He did it. Because if they lose that game and Russell Wilson looks awful, it's not good. It's a bad look for him. And so it took some courage for him to do it. But I think we all know, and I again, it happened just to be Joe. I was in Iowa all last week. I had to miss the show last week. I had all these different reps in my job from all these different cities, and they were when it came out Wednesday that they were going to be starting, Russell Wilson over. They all went nuts. Like, this is how could you do that? Blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, it's actually been Russell Wilson's job to begin with, and had he gotten hurt pushing a blocking sled, which won't even go there, he probably would have been a starter from the very beginning. So really, I don't know if you would have seen Justin Fields at all had that not happened. But here we are, and they were all like, "Oh, he just needs more time." Like, I don't think he does, because the thing I've seen, I think a lot of us have seen that Russell Wilson did last night. He didn't miss wide open guys. The loft on his ball was a great touch. He was able to get good jump balls to Pickens. He hit the tight ends, which in that Arthur Smith offense, we've been wondering, where's the tight ends? Well, the tight ends have been there.
Yeah.
Field just hasn't been able to get him the ball. And the last thing I'll say, too, before I throw it back at you, is Fields has fumbled the ball 6 times. We've just been lucky to recover 5 of those.
Right. They've
And
been
he's a
extremely
fumble
lucky.
machine. It hasn't changed since Chicago. So here he is. He's fumbling the ball away. I didn't see any turnovers from Russell Wilson, which he didn't do most of his career. He's one of the best in history at not turning the ball over. And there you have it. And total different team from that Cowboys game just 2 weeks ago.
The entire This is another instance of the national media just not getting it right. The
Right.
entire national media said, I've never heard of this. I've never heard of a team that went 4-2. It's never happened before. A team that went 4-2 pulling their quarterback. How dare they? Justin Fields is our Lord and Savior. Justin Fields is he's my long lost son. I love him to death. Like like they just developed this narrative because there is this narrative about Russell Wilson that he's old, washed up, a diva, a terrible teammate, a terrible football player, all this stuff. And it's just funny. And you know what? We didn't know, but what I kept saying is I don't agree with it, but I understand it. For what you said, what all the local people have said, it's like, yes, he has won games, but it's the same. He's winning. Justin Fields was winning games the same way that we've won games the last 3 years with Kenny Pickett, Trubisky, God knows who else. And we need better. And that's on Tomlin. And Tomlin, there was a report on Sunday that said, Tomlin said he went Lone Ranger on this, and it was only his decision. And even though people in the organization are mad, too bad. I'm the coach, and if it goes bad, then you could blame me or whatever. Um, I think what Tomlin was doing, I think that was a complete lie. I really don't think Tomlin said, "This is it. I'm making a change." Everybody's like, "Oh my God, no!" I mean, you think that's how the Steelers organization works? I mean, they're they're a well-run organization, but I think what he was doing was basically saying, "Put all the blame on me. I'll take it. I'll take the bullets. I'll take the blame. I don't care." Tomlin knows he's not going to go anywhere, so you know, fine. He took it, and it's a gamble that paid off well.
I don't think we've seen. So first of all, they scored the most points they scored in a game in almost 4 years. They scored 38 in 2020. Um, and you could see the team responding to it. Before we go there, I don't think I've seen Mike Tomlin that happy or confident. I mean, he almost had the Vince McMahon walk
Yeah.
going on after the game, and then they released some footage later this afternoon, when he's actually in the tunnel, and he kinda yells, "Talk that shit." I mean, he was exuberant over this win because, either A, I feel like he feels like they may have something here, or his call went off great, whatever. I mean, he looks good. He made the comment today. That's why they compensate me very well.
That's right.
Some things we haven't seen from him, and I thought too that so go from Tomlin to the team. I thought the defense responded well. The fans started responding. There was some boos in the beginning, but then it just kind of ironed out. The defense started responding, and it was just fantastic. It seemed like the team, like Muth, right? There was that one play where Muth probably could have just went down, and he just kept trucking guys,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
just kept going like it was like a playoff game. And I mean, it was like this was a kick start that they needed. There you could tell everybody's excited, including and especially to your point, Mike Tomlin.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody had the perfect analogy uh, last week. It was Joe Starkey on 93.7 The Fan. Do you remember that show, Deal or No Deal?
Yeah,
Remember, it was the suitcase show. You pick a
right.
suitcase and it could be $5, it could be $1 million, whatever. And then you kept picking suitcases and eliminating them. And eventually you make a choice because you have the safe thing there. You have the safe amount of money that's not that much, or you could have this thing that could be all or nothing. And that's what the situation was. They had the safe choice with Justin Fields, and they couldn't go in the course and winning 18-15 and stuff like that. It's like, no, I think we could do better. Maybe we'll do worse. Maybe we'll crap out, or maybe we'll do better. And you know what? If they did do worse, if Russell Wilson was absolutely horrible, then you go back to Justin Fields. You know, it's
Right,
you know,
right.
it's not that
Yeah,
big of a deal.
yeah, no, and I really feel like, though, last night, it was almost felt like the old primetime Steeler games, Joe. We haven't done so well in prime time in the last couple of years. And before that, we would just, annihilate anybody that came in. It was our house. As far as loud as it can get, I think Acrisure was about as loud as it's been in a long time last night. The crowd was in it, the fans were in it. Like I said, the team, and then I think when we started talking about this, I'm sorry. Let me backtrack. When we came back to the show here in Latrobe, the one guy I told you that was turning some heads in Latrobe the first 3 or 4 days of practice was Beanie, and it was like, well, okay, maybe this kid's gonna find a spot on this team somehow. He's basically a walk on above WVU, hometown kid. Maybe we'll see him on special teams. He just might make this kid as maybe even a nickel corner times or here or there. And look at what he did yesterday. And I feel like I think he even fed into that, right? I mean, he made some big grabs to grab those interceptions, and he was amazing last night. And I think that second interception was like on adrenaline. I mean, everybody's hulking out, everybody's, whatever you want to call it, but it was definitely felt throughout the team, throughout the coaching staff. And I think a lot of stuff contributed to that, including that horrible field goal call. But we'll get back to that. But yeah, I mean, even Beanie Bishop, I think, fed off of it yesterday, Joe.
Beanie Bishop, what we saw was the superhero figuring it out. Every superhero movie starts basically that goes the same way. It's, oh, they don't know. They have these powers, but they don't know how to use them, or they're not the chosen one yet, or whatever. And then all of a sudden they figure it out and they become the superhero. That's what Beanie Bishop. Before this, there were games where Beanie Bishop was a liability, where the other team would just focus on Beanie Bishop because he was doing poorly. It's like, he's an undrafted rookie. What did you expect? We were, I mean, on previous episodes, we were like, what the hell were they doing thinking that they could just give a starting job to an undrafted rookie? It was ridiculous. But last night, and I love what he said afterwards. He said it was a film study. I saw it on film, and I saw what he was going to do, and I reacted like, oh my God,
Yeah,
he figured it out.
yeah.
And that first interception, and you know what? Without him, I don't know if the Steelers win that game. That's how huge Beanie Bishop was last
Yeah,
night.
I would agree, not win, but I mean, I think it would have been a closer game. I mean, he really started to separate things out with the way he played, and you're right. I mean, he made a calculator. I mean, if you're looking and you're like, man, he looks small. You're right. He's only 5'9", barely. He's about my height, a little bit taller than me, and that, but he's out there playing cornerback in the NFL against guys that are 6'3" and 6'4". So the athleticism has been there, uh, the intelligence has been there, and yeah, it made a difference. And I think that helped spark the defense as much as Russell Wilson sparked the offense, because then you had, Peyton Wilson had a really great night last night. He led the team in tackles all of a sudden. And then the offensive line, even. You're talking about two of the younger guys. They started out a little rocky. It wasn't good in the beginning. Russell Wilson's throwing for his life, running for his life a little bit, but they settled in and they did very well.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great to see. You have your technically when McCollum or whatever his name is, that's the third or fourth string center. Um,
Right?
you have another rookie in there, McCormick, uh, and they're figuring it out, and they're getting it done, and it's beautiful. They're and this is yet another configuration of another combination of this offensive line, but they're making it work. And yeah, and the entire offense just looked amazing. And it was just a functional offense. And it started
Yeah.
with, I think, the very first play. Russell Wilson play action pass, rolls, and throws it to Darnell Washington, who is wide open. And I guarantee that play has been there a million times before. And we've been screaming for 2 years now. Throw to the giant guy
Yeah.
that nobody can cover. That's all
Right.
you need to do. My
Right. And
goodness.
I think that's what I'm saying is, like, especially in this last, 6 games, that play has been there. And Fields constantly missed that play, or the one time he saw it, I think that may have been Indianapolis, or where it may have been, and he just totally
Yeah,
overthrew him.
he overthrew him. Yeah.
But the plays last night were just fantastic, and yeah, I mean, Washington was great. I'd love to see him involved in the red zone a little bit more, but no, I mean, everything that they did last night was probably their best. I don't have any yeah buts, right? Like last every
Yeah.
week, this week and last year we had, yeah, it was great, yeah, but especially with Justin Fields. Well, he was okay, but yeah, but right, like the week before, the Dallas game, he's horrendous in the first half, not a little bit better in the second half. Um, and the week before that, he was even better in the second half. But yeah, I mean, I really don't have any complaints. I really don't. There's not much to complain about. Harris ran pretty well and danced a little bit too much for me still, but he ran well. Jalen Warren was a nice balancing act, 12 carries, 44 yards. And I think that helps Harris out, getting him in there. So that really came. So the running game was pretty on par last night, is what you wanted. We had 150 yards, total yards rushing, mostly from those two guys. We don't need Justin Fields to rush up the field, all the time. And yeah, I mean, Muth was involved. And the one thing I got to say is Calvin Austin, that drop pass, that can't
That
happen.
was
And
crushing.
that's a guy I really feel is playing for his spot on this team for the near future. If he can't get a handle on that, he's not going to be back next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's
Or
not going
or
to be
maybe
back.
the rest this year, depending on if they make any trades.
Right.
Uh,
And how about this? And we're both sitting in our chairs. We're braced for this. Van Jefferson scored a touchdown. Van Jefferson.
I almost had a heart attack. I almost
I mean,
like,
if
what is happening? Well, before that, he actually threw a pass to Van Jefferson. I'm like, oh my God.
right.
Nominate Russell Wilson for the Nobel Peace Prize or something like that, or in physics or something like that.
Give him an
Because
SP.
if you can make Van Jefferson a functional wide receiver, I don't know. The dude can split the atom or something like that. I mean, he can invent some new fusion or something like that, because the man's a genius.
Right. I mean, Devontae Adams didn't have any touchdowns, but Van Jefferson did. And so there you go. I mean, I think Billy Gardell put that out there, like, if you can make him look good, and yeah. So I thought that was great. Again, we kind of talked at the top of the hour and we kicked this off that That was great that they did it to Aaron Rodgers. Probably one of the most, for me, unlikable professional sports people out there. And it was great. And you could see that they were rattled. Maybe they need to fire another coach because, it just
I
wasn't there.
what I've seen I saw a tweet said, just one more friend. I just need one more friend, one more former Packer. That's all I need. Come on. Come on. What's Randall
Right.
Cobb doing? What's Sterling Sharp doing? Is Bart Starr still available? Let's bring Max McGee from Super Bowl 1. Let's bring him in. Like, oh my goodness.
Right.
I hate Aaron Rodgers so bad. He got the coach fired and then he vehemently denied. How dare you think I would have anything to do with that? Bro, think we're
Well, yeah.
stupid?
Yeah. He started off the press conference today by saying, first of all, nobody should listen to any of you, and like, I mean, let me tell you about the New York media. And that's like you said, I tweeted about that. Like, that's one faction you don't want to piss off.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh media and us Russ Belt medias, they kind of ebb and flow. New York, no, you will make a enemy quickly. They are not the Green Bay media. Let's put it that way for sure. You're for a very rude awakening, and I mean the Jets are sitting there. They're 2-5. And that's just they're the bottom of that division almost, and yeah, yeah, and Aaron Rodgers won't put up with that long because he'll either try to go somewhere where he can win or whatever. I don't know, but yeah.
Maybe he'll just quit. Maybe he'll go to Egypt or something.
Yeah.
Like he did for mini camp. Just
Right.
just skip it. Hey, Aaron Rodgers, maybe if you actually showed up to work back in May, maybe the team would do better now, you
And
dummy.
I don't ever consider like the Jets like one of our main rivalries, but it's great to beat them. It's always great to beat them. So, and then we play the other New York team this coming Monday night, which I guess we'll do the podcast at like Tuesday at 11 Central because that'll probably when the game ends. But here's to me the other real winner yesterday. Maybe even over Russell Wilson. Go back to the block numbers in the gray face masks. Those are the best. There you go. See, look at that. I thought I should have put my Bettis jersey on. Go back to the block numbers.
Please.
I
It
mean,
looks so good. It's
oh,
time.
it is.
We've had the whatever the
Yes,
round numbers now for
cursive
almost 30
round. Yeah,
years. It's time to go back to the block numbers. They look so good. Oh my
they do.
goodness.
They look
And you
so
know
good
what?
last night.
I wonder how much of that. I wonder if it was said during halftime because they honored there was the 50th anniversary of the 1974
Hmm.
Super Bowl 9 team. I wonder if because I believe oh yeah, they were losing. They were losing 15-13 at halftime. I wonder if um Tomlin or someone said, like, how can we lose in front of the 1974 team, which a lot of those players are still there? How
Right.
how dare you? How can we embarrass ourselves in front of them? We need
Well,
we need to step it up.
the only one I thought of was I think it was Ogunjobi. Well, Ogunjobi got the sack, and was it Ogunjobi that got penalized for that tackle? And I'm thinking that 74 team's got to be sitting there like, come on, man. I mean, we used to do so much worse than
Mean Joe Green did that every single play.
exactly.
If
Jack
you
Campbell didn't deliver.
survived a play and still had all of your fingers and nose and mouth and stuff and teeth,
Right.
you are lucky.
Yeah. I mean,
It's like one of those things where like, well, they're dirty, yeah, but they were on our team, so it's okay. Mitchell Green was one of the dirtiest players ever, man.
oh
That guy
yeah.
was. They
Yeah.
didn't call him. He wasn't nice Joe Green, okay? They called him Mean Joe
Right.
Green for a
Right.
reason.
Kind of nice, Mean Joe. No, he was mean. So yeah, I mean that was that got me on that penalty. I mean, I guess you can't do it, but still at the same time, like I bet you that 74 team. And the only thing is, and I don't like to harp on it because I get it, maybe, but and I can understand the scheduling because I think he was in New York or wherever it is, but I don't understand when they honor these teams why Bradshaw never wants to show up. I mean, I'm sure if Terry would have said, "Hey, look, I'm doing the Fox pregame show or whatever. I'm going to take a helicopter. I'm going to take a private jet. I'm going to fly into Pittsburgh for the game tonight. It's an 8:20 start. It's not like it was a 1 o'clock kickoff. It's an 8:20 kickoff." And yet he always still continues to kind of dodge. And I thought because I can't remember Joe why he came back. a couple of years back, and the crowd went nuts, and he started to cry, and he realized how much the city loves him, and I kind of thought that would stem the tide, but then he's kind of slips back into like when David Marinus did the book on Chuck Noll, which is probably one of the best sports books I've ever read. Terry refused to be interviewed for it. It wasn't until they did the documentary on Chuck Noll on NFL Network that Terry talked to why he didn't do it and said he needed more hugs. Remember, I don't know if you saw that interview
Yeah. Yeah.
and stuff like that. But like, I just have never understood that. Like, even if you didn't get along with Chuck, fine, come back with your teammates. I mean, you were one of the pinnacle parts of that
He was one of
team.
the main parts of those
Yeah,
teams. He was maybe
and that,
the
I
main
mean,
part of
I know
those
you handed the
teams.
ball off to Franco, and Franco was the Super Bowl MVP in that game. I get that, but I guess I sat there. I was like, come on, Terry.
He's held a grudge against Pittsburgh, and he thinks that we don't like him. And that time you mentioned that he came back, he said, "I'm only coming back with my daughters so that they don't boo me." Are you kidding? Not one person would ever boo you, Terry Bradshaw. We love you to death. You were the main part of the greatest dynasty in sports history. We don't we have no ill will. None.
Right. And I'm sure, like, I talked to my dad, and I know, you and your dad were tight. I'm sure your dad would kind of agree. Like, I get it. Back then, there was the whole Terry Hanratty and Terry Bradshaw, and there was Joe Gilliam there for like 73, 72, and a little bit of 74. But hey, that was like, okay. After they realized maybe what they're doing now, hey, Russell Wilson's the guy. After they realized, hey, Terry Bradshaw's the guy. And then we went up and kicked the ever living shit out of everybody for 4 years or 7 years or
Yeah.
whatever it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I just whatever it is, Joe. I mean, I can't be too critical of something. Maybe there's something there, but I just sat there, was just disappointed, thinking, Terry, come on, man. I mean, and honestly,
It's
we know how many times in your life are you going to get a chance? Because you know what, there was no LC. Franco wasn't there.
exactly.
You just
Exactly.
Franco died in his sleep. You know,
E- e- exactly. How many chances are we going to get to see these people? Um, Terry Bradshaw 76. Um, all of these guys are in their 70s and approaching almost 80. We're not going to see them much longer. Unfortunately, they're going to start going more and more.
right?
And it's sad. It's sad. I feel bad as someone who is a if there was a grudge holding Hall of Fame, I would be a first ballot inductee. So I get holding a grudge, but dude, please, we
Yeah,
would all love it. We would all whatever happened, that's in the past. There's not one Steeler fan alive that says I don't like Terry Bradshaw or I'm mad at him or something like that. No, we all love him. It's sad.
yeah.
It
Well,
really is
yeah,
sad.
it is, and I even like, especially after what happened with the Auger earlier this year, right? Like, Yags comes back, they go nuts. His girl, his girlfriend was there who wasn't alive in any of that, which is the best line of the year. Uh, and I mean, they
I think
raised
he
the
mentioned that in his speech. It's like, yeah, you weren't
yeah,
even
yeah. I mean,
alive.
you got to think about it, Joe. I mean, like, so 68's up in the rafters, 66, and then of course Marcel Dion, I believe, is up there. I forget his number off the top of my head, but I mean, they'll probably put Sid, Gino, and maybe Flurry. I mean,
Yeah,
how often do you get to do that? And so, like, Terry's in the same vein, man. It's just like, especially Pittsburgh. I mean, if anybody embraces these guys, my son is met Mean Joe Green. He's only 10. I mean, never got to see him play. We barely got to see him play, and yet
right.
we know to honor him and love him. So I don't know. That was my only criticism, I guess, was like, man, Terry, really? You
Yeah.
know,
I just hope you find peace. I just hope,
right? I do too. Right?
because he's still holding on to that grudge. But someone who's not holding on to a grudge right now, I think, is George Pickens,
Yeah,
who uh finally finally we see what he's capable of. And that was the big difference. And one big difference between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields is Fields will throw some pretty nice, deep balls, but Russell Wilson throws that beautiful moonshot where it just lands right where you need to be, right where you are, where only you can
Yep.
get it.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. And God, that Russell Wilson and George Pickens connection was gorgeous.
It was with him, it was with Muth, and even a pass to Jefferson was nice. So I mean, in the past to Calvin Austin was nice. He just, didn't haul it in. And that's the kind of thing I think that I guess they must have seen that too, Joe. I mean, that's the only thing, all the yeah buts we talked about earlier. Uh, that was the thing. I mean, in Dallas, against every team, the Colts, the Cowboys, the Chargers, even Fields was missing guys all week and just wasn't getting any better.
Yeah.
And that's the
Actually
thing.
getting
Like, okay,
worse.
well, he still missed him. And did Russell Wilson throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns? No, but he threw for 270 almost, and looked good. And that's just he hasn't played since almost Christmas of last year.
Right.
So gosh only knows how he's going to start looking in the weeks coming ahead. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to score 40 points every week, but all of a sudden there's a new dynamic to this team that um gives me a little bit of hope.
This is what we've been talking about for 3 or 4 years now. You already have a good defense. You just need an offense to be good enough to have long, sustained drives to keep the defense fresh, to have a good running game, a functional pass game, and that's it. And let's credit Arthur Smith too. He
Yeah,
he's been calling. His game plan has been pretty solid too. So, um,
interesting how that works out when you bring a quarterback in that can adhere to the plan, right?
exactly.
So,
Exactly. People say,
yeah.
"Oh, this is just like Matt Canada." Oh, shut the hell up. Good Lord.
Right. Well, I mean, and that's the thing, like, Matt Canada, wherever, fishing vessel you might be working on tonight. We're sorry, but I still feel like you should probably be on that vessel. Um, but well, hell no. Matt even had Ben for a little bit and couldn't do it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it really is kind of interesting how that works out. And now if it starts clicking, you have a winnable game next week against the Giants. You really probably should go into is it their bye week
It
after that,
is, and
correct?
then it's a bye. Yeah.
And then we go into the craziness, which will be the topic of our story going ahead. Is that ridiculous schedule? I don't think my wife even knows they play on Christmas Day yet. I haven't told her that.
Oh my God.
Uh and I got to tell you, as much as a Steeler fan as I am, Christmas takes precedence over the Steelers just
Right.
about.
Right. I
I
really
just
hate that. I really hate that that's a family
yeah,
holiday, time to spend with your family, and now
not
you
even
gotta watch
yeah,
football. Like, no,
not
no, sorry.
not even Halloween. We already complained about it, but and then they find themselves in a better predicament going into that schedule, Joe, because like the Browns are just they're disarray right now, Joe. The Browns are in trouble.
Oh, we gotta talk about the Browns.
The Browns were awful. They play the Ravens next week. Probably another loss. I don't know if the Browns are going to win much more than maybe another game this year.
You
Uh,
know what? I think
Bengals
they're gonna
have
be much better now that Deshaun Watson's gone.
I
That's
don't know
how
about much better, but maybe.
um But what
You
an
know,
ugly situation there.
oh,
Deshaun Watson blows out his Achilles. He's gone for the year, possibly his career. Possibly that's the last time we ever see Deshaun Watson. And the Cleveland fans cheer him getting hurt.
they,
Oh, and the Browns players yelling at the fans for cheering. Oh man.
oh yeah, Deshaun or not Deshaun Watson. Yeah, they were going off on my wife and I actually had a meeting today with a gentleman. He came to the meeting wearing a Browns hat. And we were talking, and he actually said the words, I was ashamed of my fan base and of what we did. And Browns fans are a lot like Steeler fans. We like to get on each other, make fun of each other, but they're a lot like us. Blue
Yeah.
collar, love their team no matter what. They find the blue silver lining if they can. Um, yeah. And that's the thing. What I said to the guy is, those guys, they go out next week against Baltimore. You really think they're going to give 100% after watching what you did to Deshaun Watson? I mean, that's what I'm saying, Joe. They may be better. You're right at quarterback, but I really feel like it's the ship has sailed.
It's
You know,
it's just such an ugly situation that was a disaster in so many ways, and it basically ruined the entire franchise. And you just hope, well, no, you hope, I don't hope they recover from, but it'll take them a long time to recover from all of this, financially and on the football field and in the organization and with the fan base. It's just a complete mess.
not
Sorry, go ahead.
not to mention they announced that they're moving. You know, they're actually moving, and that's so I've been there before. It's 30 about 30 minutes with traffic, 35 minutes south of Cleveland. They're not in Cleveland anymore. They'll
That
be
is
in
stupid.
Brook Park, which is yeah, I mean, it'd be like equivalent of like the Steelers being in like Elwood City or
Right,
Webster,
right.
which is always good Yenzers everywhere. But um, I just can't
No,
imagine. Hey, you
part of
going
the
to Elwood
charm of
wedding?
playing in Cleveland is you're right there on the lake. You have to
Yeah,
deal with the elements.
right. And then
It's right there in your face.
they're gonna play in a dome. I mean,
Oh my
that's the best
God.
thing about Buffalo and Pittsburgh and Cleveland and Cincinnati is, you know, hey, welcome to our neck of the woods where we play when it snows. You
Yeah.
know, so buckle up because you know it's. I don't care if you're from Miami or San Francisco, or you are the Colts and you play in a dome. We play in the snow. So yeah, that to me is discouraging. And but yeah, and then you had the Bengals who beat them, but now the Bengals host the Eagles. So really, the Steelers beat the Giants. They could be really sitting pretty after that bye week.
It could get real interesting. I'm afraid to I'm afraid to look at it at this point because it's just blowing my mind. I totally expected the Jets to just roll over the Steelers just because they're a wounded animal and they're desperate. But the Jets are they're just a mess. They're just
Well,
God.
they are. I mean, and I'm not sure who if they're better off than the Browns right now. And I mean, nobody got them firing their coach like they did. Um, you know that Rodgers and him weren't getting along. So, like you said, the backup bus and go forward was in full bus number 8 was in full full throttle. And yeah, you know, and I think now, like now you're starting to see some of the separation. Like who are some of the teams that that could be tough? I think right now uh, the Bills would host the Steelers in a playoff game or something like that. I think you know Kabali said, but yeah, you know the Texans look for real. The Colts look stingy again. So who knows? But I just felt like maybe of all the games, considering the opponents, I thought the Steelers may have looked the best yesterday. You
Yeah.
know, they really look solid. Of course, Kansas City's still undefeated, and they took it to the 49ers in San Francisco, so you could argue that. But everything last night, it's the first time that I turned the TV off and I was like, yeah, I can go to bed and pretty much fall asleep and not sit there and stay
Yeah.
awake for an hour or two
Yeah.
thinking, "Ah, you
Um,
know,
it's beautiful. It was beautiful. But if this, the whole goal of making the quarterback change is we don't want to be the same old team that goes 9-8 and then loses in the first round of the playoffs. Well, if you really want to win some games in the playoffs, host a playoff game. You do that by winning the division. And right now they're on top of the division. So if they could just hold off the Ravens and the Bengals, I think it's possible because I'm guessing. Well, I would imagine the Bengals would have a pretty easy schedule, but the Ravens won't. And
no, no."
so
I feel very confident. They should probably sweep the Browns. The Bengals, you're right, could be a split. But I think if Fields were in there, I'd be a little bit worried about either splitting with the Bengals or splitting with the Ravens because I just didn't feel like, you know, they were doing what they needed to do, and he wasn't doing what they needed to do to put him in a position to win. I mean, you had the
right,
Cowboys who have had been not very good this year come in here in our town and beat us, which just sucked to the bejesus belt.
yeah, that
Uh,
hurts.
so now all of a sudden, I know it's just one game, but let's see how it goes. But now I feel if he can play like that, like you said, if he can play like that, defense plays like they do, we're in just about every game. But we do have a just gauntlet of a schedule to run through, and starting about 3 weeks.
But one thing about Justin Fields is he is as stand up a guy with a great attitude as you could possibly have. That interview he gave last week, where it was basically announced, they didn't announce it, but they basically did, that Russell Wilson would be the starter. And Justin Fields basically said, it's my fault. I didn't play well enough. I could have done better.
Yeah.
When have you ever heard that from an athlete? Never.
No.
I've
Yeah.
never heard that just them, criticize themselves like that. That was such a, I mean, something like that. And that's why when I don't know if there really was dissension of, people people in the organization being angry about the change. But I'll bet that kid has some fans. I'll bet you know, nobody has said one bad thing about him, and he just seems like a total stand-up guy. And
Yeah.
I love him.
I'm a bigger fan of him than I am now than when he came here, right?
Yeah,
Because I just didn't know much about him. But like you said, the interviews he's given, the way he's taken this, I believe he tweeted out almost immediately Wednesday, like, "Hey, I'm ready to watch and learn."
there you go.
Almost accepting the fact that, hey, he's struggled over the last 3 years since being a number one pick, and I'm here to learn, and there's nothing about him to not like in this situation, Joe. He's been very nice. He's been great about it, great attitude. So, what more can you ask from him?
Yeah, yeah. Just a really stand-up thing to say. Um, one factor that I think didn't get talked about enough, and I think that really, really, really helped the defense, was Alex Highsmith coming back. Um, TJ Watt, quote unquote, didn't do much, and that's because Aaron Rodgers, basically, as soon as he got the ball, he was like Ben at the end of his career. As soon as he get the ball, boom, throw it, and there's no way you could get a sack or anything like that. But Alex Highsmith was bringing the pressure, and I think his presence the last few games was sorely missed, because people say, oh, Nick Herbig is just as good as something. No, 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 no. Alex Highsmith is good against the pass and against the run.
Yeah, no, they did well. They only got one sack last night, but they had 8 hits. So Rogers was definitely feeling it. And you're right. And one of my favorite people on Twitter is his dad. Um, because his dad has no qualms about saying, "Hey, ref, how about holding?" And stuff like that. So
Oh
Sam
yeah,
Highsmith,
yeah, it's
Sam Highsmith's
ridiculous.
dad's great.
He's funny.
But no, it was definitely noticeable. You're right, Joe. His presence and what he does and the impact he brings to the defense is probably not appreciated enough. And you saw it last night. And I think again allowed guys like Patrick Queen didn't have a bad game last night. He was pretty visible. Peyton Wilson was good. So yeah, I think it opened things up.
And how about the special teams? Dear God, every single week there's a punt block or a field goal block? Are you kidding me? When have you
Dude,
ever seen that from a football team?
right. And I mean, like the first of all, the call was awful. He did not propel himself off of those guys.
Yeah, what was that?
He just, it's kind of goes back to that TJ Watt sack. Was that week 1 or week 2 when he was actually so quick?
He was too good.
He
Yeah.
was too good. And that leap was just too good. So you know that, I mean, I can't remember a special teams coach being that pissed off. Maybe Bobby April back under Cowher's days, but
I thought he was gonna get like a penalty or something like that,
I
because
did too.
I
I
kind
did
of seemed
too.
like he was going after the ref. But then when they got the field goal block and everybody came to him and was like hugging him, it was the cutest thing ever, because
Yes.
that guy is like 100 years old.
Right, yeah,
he's
it's
a
like your
he's
grandpa out there dancing with the kids and everything, and yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean, Joe. I think it was a combination of that. I mean, everybody was such in good moods last night. The offensive line, when they got the guys to come off sides, they were jumping up and down, and um, I think with the exception of Russell Wilson and some of the others, Steelers are a very young team. There's probably going to be mistakes down the road, but it's you kind of like where it's going, especially after last night.
they could get better. They could get better offensively and defensively.
Right?
It's exciting. It's
No,
exciting.
it
And now
definitely is.
and now with this offense being complete, oh boy, I don't know.
I
I
don't
don't
know if
know.
it's
It's
complete. I still, the rumor is right now they're going to make a pickup in the wide receiver market here by tomorrow, end of day tomorrow. That's the rumor I've been seeing before I jumped on with you.
Mike Williams.
Mike Williams might be the guy. And that to me would make it a little bit more complete. Sorry, Van Jefferson. I know you just had the game of your life with your 2 receptions and 15 yards and a touchdown. But no, Joe, I really think that that could be coming together because, hey, Jalen Warren looked good last night. Yeah. Yeah.
Van Jefferson was playing in front of his dad. His dad is the wide receivers coach of the Jets.
Jets. I know. Yeah.
Weird.
Right. Right.
Um,
So yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I hear Mike Williams. I hear DeAndre Hopkins, who I would love. I hear the dude in Jacksonville. I forget what his name is. So yeah, because I mean, yeah, the Jets suck and Aaron Rodgers can go to hell, but when you have Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson, two of the best wide receivers, that was real hard. You can't just focus on one dude. That I mean,
Right.
Jets have a lot of weapons, and if you just add one more weapon to this a real weapon to this offense, imagine them not being able to focus on George Pickens and what they could do then. That that would be
Yep.
scary.
Yeah, I mean, they go and add Devontae Adams, and I think, Collinsworth and the guys are talking about that. I mean, I think people forget the numbers Rodgers and Adams have put up together is insane. I mean, it's Hall of Fame. Well, not, doesn't make Devontae Adams a Hall of Famer, but like, if you want to put in a combo, right? They're Hall of Fame numbers for what they've done together. Uh, and yet it didn't really make a huge impact last night. Defense played pretty well against them, so yeah. One other thing on special teams, I want to go back to that real quick. How about a shout out to Corliss Williamson, who's been or Waltman? He's been fantastic. I mean, all three of his punts were inside of 20, and were average of 55 yards. I mean, for a guy that you just had to go pick up and throw in there from almost week one, he's been really good for the Steelers. So even he was fantastic last night
He's
punting.
the replacement. He's
Yeah,
the guy they picked off the waiver wire when our main punter went down.
right.
He was like a throwaway, and he's one of the best punters. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, and that's the thing. We have I cover high school sports. We have a team up here that's doing pretty good with Sharon, which is ironically Terrell Austin's alma mater there, Sharon High School, where he came out of. And I really feel like they have an inside track to maybe make a good shot at the state title this year. And one of the things is their special teams is insane. They create turnovers. They have good punting. They have great coverage. Most teams are starting ridiculously buried in their own backyard to try to even make gain on them. And their defense is great too. So uh, it's great to see our special teams doing well, Joe. When you bring all that together, hey, the Steelers could beat anybody. It's just a matter, can you continue down this path?
Stay healthy. That's the
Stay
key.
healthy.
Stay healthy. Yeah.
Yep.
Pray for health. Um, I want to conclude with this because it was like one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Did you see the intro to Sunday Night Football with Michael Keaton?
It was incredible.
It was incredible. It
Yeah.
was so good. I had to like transcribe it, and I want to read from it because it was just perfect. It encapsulates what it means to be a Steelers fan.
Mhm.
It was beautiful. He says, when you're from where I'm from, Western PA, just outside Pittsburgh, the Steelers are like a local religion in a way where everyone goes to the same church. Your family, your friends, the guys at the gas station, the Steelers unite us all. So here I am. I've been a fan my entire life, and every freaking Sunday in the fall, I'm still watching this team. Now, whether this kid Fields or Russ, I'm good either way. And Mike T has got these guys playing the right way like he always does. Now, tonight, the circus comes to town. And I don't mean to demean any new acquisitions, but I think I can say with authority that all is not well with Gotham. This is bad saying this.
Right. Yep.
Then he
Yep.
says, you do realize the Steelers have had 3 coaches in 55 years, and the Jets have got like what, 2 in the last 2 weeks? And he says, no disrespect.
Right.
I just feel you should know these things before if you're going to watch this game and appreciate what football means to people in those stands. I guess my point is there aren't enough things that unite us anymore. Come to Pittsburgh, you'll see how great it is when something does that. That's really all I wanted to say. Enjoy the game. Keaton just knocked it out of the park. Oh my God, that is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
He doesn't he's not as he isn't always yammering a lot, kind of like Snoop or I'm forgetting the other
Snoop's a
Mike.
fake fan. I'm tired of
Well,
him.
Snoop or Michaels from
Sh-
Brett Michaels, who's a
from
diehard
the
Steeler
lead
fan.
singer of Poison, yeah.
But when he comes in, flies in, and kind of makes the I'll never forget. It was like an opening Pirates game, and
Yes.
he slammed Bob Nutting in the team. He threw out the opening pitch that day
He
too.
threw the opening pitch and he
Right?
slammed the team. He's like,
Yeah.
spend some money, guys.
Yeah, you want to sign me because I can make myself affordable or something like that in a classic Michael Keaton way.
Yeah.
Uh, that's what I love about him. He's there's other celebrities or Steeler fans, and it's so much fun to run through those. But yeah, it was great.
There's certain Pittsburgh celebrities that just are basically like, oh, they're from Pittsburgh, but you really don't, you don't really know associate them with Pittsburgh. But Michael Keaton, that guy is Pittsburgh all the way
Oh
through.
yeah, I think if you said to Pittsburgh, the Steeler Nation, say choose your ambassador, he's gonna win.
It could be,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, there's some other guys that are in there.
Him or Billy Gardell. He's another ambassador.
Billy Gardell. Yeah, but no, he's gonna be in there. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just perfect.
Good way to
Batman
close.
saying Batman taking shots at Gotham. That was
That's right.
beautiful. All right. Hey, thanks so much.
See you next week, Joe.